retcons are now a fundamental part of a team or hero's journey, some more than others. Nightcrawler's origin is a mess that has hopefully been cleaned up for the last time. As it stands right now, Nightcrawler's mother is Destiny and his father is Mystique. Yes, Mystique presents as a woman most of the time, I get that, but this is the MCU that can be easily changed depending on the mutant. Mystique is a very powerful mutant and she isn't a shapeshifter. Well, she is, I'm just trying to be dramatic and make a point. Mystique is a gene shaper. Shape-shifting commonly is changing your body's shape but keeping your inside stuff like your DNA the same. For Mystique, she can alter her inside stuff, so she was able to give herself functioning male reproductive organs and become a father. For the longest time, Nightcrawler's mom was Mystique and his dad was Azazel. Turns out Mystique had relations with Azazel that didn't result in a child, but the relationship made sure she was familiar with Azazel's body so she could easily replicate it when she needed to. Plus, Azazel thinking Nightcrawler was his son was crucial to him not messing with the Earth to the point of destruction because, well, he might not be a great father, but at least he doesn't want to destroy his kid's home planet. Nightcrawler has a lot of parents. Covered here, Mystique, Destiny, and Azazel, but also Mystique was married to Baron Wagner and he thought that Nightcrawler was his, so that's another maybe like half father. Then as covered in part 1, Mystique married Professor X at one point, so that's a stepdad right there. It looks like this whole Destiny and Mystique thing might be the permanent birth story for Nightcrawler, as that's what the original creator intended, but like all things in the Marvel Universe, we just have to wait and see. At this point, Wolverine could write a handbook on retcons and how to come back from the dead. He has everything going for him to not die: indestructible skeleton, powerful healing factor, but sometimes even that isn't enough. But Wolverine is so popular so you can't kill him. So how is it that he never seems to stay 6 feet under? Well, he travels 6 million feet under and fights the Angel of Death in Purgatory for the right to come back to life. That is so heavy metal. This new info came about in 2008 in Wolverine 48 and was expanded on in Wolverine 58. The issue before this one ends with Wolverine brain dead after a fight that ended up with a bomb on the inside of his body, and the death of his girlfriend, not Silver Fox. This was a different girlfriend way later than that. Like how it happened with Silver Fox, we'll get into later, his girlfriend's passing emotionally destroyed him and his will to live. So when the time came to fight again, Wolverine didn't wanna, which is why he wasn't waking up on Earth. Eventually though, through a series of deaths and deals, Wolverine clawed his way back to the surface. Overall, this retcon is not the worst of this list. It's a pretty good explanation as to why Wolverine is always coming back even if he's been hit with something serious. Surprise! The Phoenix Force is Thor's mom. That's right, the one that X-Men Jean Grey is connected to. That has now been sort of retconned and Thor is once again son of Gaia or Gaia, depends on the person how you want to say it. Though we know that Mother Earth is Thor's biological mom now, there was a moment when we were meant to believe it was the Phoenix Force. The Force claimed Thor as her own and that left everyone shocked, surprised, flabbergasted. At the time, it was like, why did we need that? Now it's kinda like, there are worse things. So the bold statement of Thor, I am your mother, was taken back, but when Thor was a baby, just after Mother Earth had given birth to him, Thor was attacked by a frost giant sword and it literally froze baby Thor. So friend to Mother Earth, the Phoenix Force breathed fire into the child, the fire of life, and now he's okay and has some Phoenix power in him. And he kind of has 3 moms now: Mother Earth, the Phoenix Force, and Freya. Wolverine cannot know peace or anything that has happened in his past. Even we the readers don't know what's real or what's retconnable. Take Wolverine's ex, Silver Fox, now we're getting to her. Like most people close to Wolverine, she passed away in a brutal manner and it was very sad and very hard on Wolverine. She met an untimely end at the hands of Sabretooth, Wolverine's arch nemesis. This death was actually one of the main reasons the pair hated each other so much. So Silver Fox's death was a very big deal until she was retcon revived, not even just as herself, but as a Hydra agent. That's an emotional hit. We learned Wolverine's tragic memories of her death were fake. There was even a fake cabin he was shown to prove it, but then we got the rug pulled again, and this whole thing was retconned again in House of M. Wolverine regains the memory of Silver Fox and Sabretooth. It's real this time. For how long though? I guess we'll never know. The Silver Fox that is a Hydra agent is thought to have been an impersonator or clone, or who knows. One of Wolverine's retcons was so controversial that it never actually panned out. Rumor has it that Wolverine was at one point maybe not a mutant, but really a Wolverine. A Wolverine that had been turned into a human. It's not hard to see why this one didn't make it to the page and why the rumor is hated. It's fun to think about, but it definitely doesn't have the same cool factor that Mutant Wolverine does. If the Wolverine had made it to the page, the idea was that the High Evolutionary would have created him. One of Wolverine's original writers has denied that this Wolverine nonsense was his idea, though he did admit that bringing the High Evolutionary into Wolverine's origin was something that was planned. I'm glad we have the Wolverine we do, and that for the most part he seems to always come back to his mutant status. I am counting this one because the X-Men are heavily involved. Franklin Richards is the son of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, and he has been having a bit of an identity crisis, but this isn't the one most teenagers go through. No, his is much worse. He thought he was a mutant and even got onto the exclusive mutant island and made a bunch of friends, only to later discover he wasn't a mutant at all. He was a very powerful kid, just not a powerful mutant kid. Franklin was accidentally making himself appear as a mutant, and when his power got drained he couldn't do that anymore, and that was when the non-mutant status was discovered. This one sucks because there was so much now unnecessary fighting that happened to get Franklin onto Krakoa. His dad permanently damaged his relationship with Franklin, preventing him from going to Krakoa by masking his X gene. The X-Men and the Fantastic Four destroyed Washington Park. Franklin makes all of his mutant friends, and all of it ends up being for nothing. Hard enough to keep up with as a reader, imagine that being your teenage years. Franklin was considered one of the strongest mutants ever until this big old mess happened, and he's not anymore. This next retcon seems to be a love it or hate it situation. I think it's neat, but a lot of people dislike it for not making a lot of sense in the X-Men universe. Moira McTaggart being a mutant and not a human. Her mutant ability is reincarnation, but the cool kind. Instead of just being reincarnated and needing to start all over again every time, she keeps all her memories and everything she has learned. I think this is neat and explains why she is so smart. But in the 90s, there was that big virus thing, the legacy virus, and Moira was the first human to get it. That was a big deal. Before her, only mutants were affected by the virus. She developed a mutated strain when she got sick. This is important because before, humans were not chill with mutants, but they weren't overly hostile either. Once they learned they could catch the legacy virus, humans got a bit unhinged. Chaos ensued, there was anti-mutant riots, it wasn't cute. That would cause a lot of guilt if she were a human that caused this, but how much guilt is she feeling since now she is a mutant that lied and caused all this just to save herself from being found out? Plus, she gave a sample of the mutated virus. She literally provided a sample, and that sample was studied by great academic minds in detail, and no one clocked that they were looking at mutant DNA. Personally, I'm not a science person in our world, so I am hanging on by a thread when it comes to the MCU, but I feel like that is something that they would have or should have checked in their extensive research. Every once in a while, Marvel does this thing where they take a character that has been a mutant since creation and they suddenly take the mutant status away for whatever reason. Then they're like, how do you feel about that? And we all say we hate it, and 50% of the time it gets fixed. Thankfully, they fixed Wolverine's Lupine era. Wolverine had been a mutant basically for as long as we've had him. That all changed in 2007 around issue 50 of Wolverine Volume 3. All of a sudden, Wolverine was not a mutant, he was a Lupine, a human descended from wolves. Wolverine was told this by ancient evil Romulus and didn't take it well. Good news is, neither did Wolverine fans. The retcon was received so poorly, Marvel did a double retcon to fix it. In the later comic Wolverine Volume 2 number 312, Romulus' sister Remus ended up literally telling Wolverine that everything her brother said wasn't true and the Lupine species was not actually real. There we go. He is out of his Lupine era, dead and gone and buried. Okay, listen. This retcon is not the case anymore, but it did happen. At one point, Magneto was actually not Jewish. When he was being investigated by Sabra and everything was found out that the name Eric L was fake, there were hints that Magneto was not Jewish and instead he and his wife were Romani. This didn't go over well with fans as we were all kind of used to Magneto being Jewish, and pretty soon it was permanently cemented that Magneto was Jewish when he got his actual fleshed out backstory. So now he is definitely Jewish, can't see that changing, but that wasn't always the case in the 90s. Wanda and Pietro are still rocking the boat all these years later, and it is one of the X-Men's most hated retcons ever. Wanda and Pietro are not Magneto's twins. Magneto, you are not the father. This retcon is hated for a variety of reasons, like how the overall story is now messed up, but also many think it had a real-world reason for happening. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver made their MCU debut and were going to become major players. Unfortunately, they were already tied to a separate studio. The battle between studios is what many think is the reason Marvel cut the tie between Magneto and the twins so they could be used in the films without ties to the not yet owned X-Men. People like their favorite characters to have a story that makes sense, with decisions made for them that fit in with the rest of the story, not because of a legal battle in the real world. One thing I really want to know because of all of this is if Wanda and Pietro are not Magneto's twins, then who are? We know the babies were born, they were delivered by an evolved cow, that's not something one forgets. Wanda and Pietro found out they weren't related to Magneto almost a decade ago. What happened to Magneto's biological twins? I literally can't find anything on it. Please someone let me know the answer. If you have it, comment down below. It's just a little weird that Marvel hasn't explored that since it's been almost a decade since Wanda and Pietro discovered their father wasn't their father. Maybe they're leaving it open so that they can bring them back in once the X-Men make it to the MCU. I don't know. Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and make your mark on the comment section down below. This is Juliana signing off. See you later. Bye!